sophisticated miking techniques in studios and so forth, but live, 57 always works great in the cone. And something you have to be aware of that even some of my professional peers that are great aren't necessarily aware of. When you're playing in a club, it doesn't matter if you're in a stadium or you're in a room like this. If you've got a good sound man, and like he's mixing for an audience, you want your guitar quiet enough so he has to put it in the PA. So in other words, no matter where you go in the room, there's a balance, and you're in the picture. Some people still, I know, will like take this amp and just blow people's faces off, and the problem is, even if you love that guitar player, you can't hear the picture of the band, and it's out of whack, and that's not really the way that guy makes records. So why is he doing that to you in a club? Go figure. I learned a long time ago, because I like to really push the amp hard to get a sound I like. I used to use Mark III Mesas, and what we would do is have the brain and then a long extension cabinet, just 112. And we would run it sometimes down the hallway, and it would be in the dressing room with a mic, because the club was so little.
Yeah.
And the goal was, I need my sound, but I want the PA man, the mixer, to have to put it in the PA. So I know what I'm doing isn't, I mean, first of all, if I'm blasting the hell out of somebody there, then maybe only the person in the corner who's far enough away is going to hear what I'm trying to really present. And that's not right. You want anyone who's in there to get a hit emotionally of what you're presenting. And, you know, very rarely somebody might think, you know, my guitar has to be here and everything else is this unimportant. That's a choice. Personally, I like my guitar to just be tucked in as part of the picture, and when I play a solo, I have an overdrive. I'm out. On my own, I have a boost a little bit. But that's apples and oranges, but at the end of the day, it's funny, I went to see, I have no more favorite guitarist, writer, singer than John Fogerty. I mean, I like a lot of him. He's one of the greats, all-time greats. And I went to see him in Phoenix in a shed where there was probably 20,000 people, but it was open air. And my wife and I kept going back, and the sound man had the band. Now, the band was mixed well, balanced amongst the 4 or 5 sounds, but it was so loud, it was hurting my ears. And I felt embarrassed because I kept trying to get away from it, but it was John friggin' Fogerty singing his ass off. And at some point, after about a half hour, we moved around, I looked at my wife, and she looked at me and said, "Can you believe it? We got to leave." And we left. And I was heartbroken. I was like, but it's not my place to go up to the sound man and say, "What are you doing?" And in general, you might find out that some musicians, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm not speaking for John Fogerty, maybe he wants it that loud. I don't know. But what I try to do is like be loud, clear, dominate the room, but don't hurt anybody. But don't be cocktail music. Like if they want to have a conversation and talk while you're playing for 10 minutes, they're going to have to go outside. You know, it's kind of like a tricky balance where you have to use your judgment to command the room, but not turn off the room. And so thus this blank. You got a nice saturation in there. It's pretty much dry now. And, you know, of course, we all like to throw a little chorus. It's kind of light chorus. You can make it a little harsher, like it's a nice shimmer. Of course, always with chorus, the depth, which is how much of it gets more intense, and the rate is how fast. So you start turning up the rate. It gets faster and faster. Now the level, if you put that on full, okay, well that's an extreme exaggeration, but now to me that's useless, because it's out of tune. Unless you're doing something in the studio where you want some swimmy psychedelic 60s out of tune sound, well then go for it. But usually I'll run the depth on this knob. I have it around 2 o'clock. The rate right now is up almost 4 o'clock. So I take that back down to around 10 o'clock. So it goes back in tune, you still get the swim, and then right now it's full effect. You take that down, but you find what works for you, and of course a nice little effect, and of course the delay. You delay to the thing, use a lot of it for a solo or subtle. Usually, sometimes rather than be bone dry. And again, if you're using a delay, of course it sets with time. And if you're out of time with the song, well, you've got to deal with that. Sometimes if I'm in a jam setting and I just don't want a bone dry sound, I'll try to just get a generic, some kind of delay, but then I'll try to take the level of it to where you almost can't hear it. Now you feel it instead of hear it. Because it might conflict with each tempo if you're jamming and every song is different, so you know. So it's there, but it's not dominating to the point where it's messing up because you're in a tempo. Ideally, you want to set your delay in the song, whether it's an eighth note or a quarter note, half note, whatever you're hearing, or not. But that's another thing. The overdrive, I'm using this thing called a burn unit by a guy named Barbara out of Annapolis. I really like it. I've always struggled with overdrive to try to get sustained without too much distortion. Because that really, like, I'll keep the volume down a little bit. But of course you got volume, I got treble here, and then you got fuzz. And right now with the fuzz way up, it's nice and sustaining, but now it's getting a little fuzzy for my taste. So I usually roll that was like 3 o'clock. I roll the fuzz back to more like, 10 or 9, and so you hear more of the metal in the string. I like the metal of the electric guitar. So I'm trying to always find a balance. Usually I never get quite the sustain I want. But it's a trade-off to keep some of that metal in the string for solos. Also, with the overdrive, well, I'll turn it off for a second. Something I do a lot, I love the Strat, but there's a lot of great electric guitars. That's a great one, too. And the neck pickup is very, funky and kind of dark. That more classic quack between the pickups. Love that sound, of course. And, everything in between. They're all great sounds. I do a lot of finger picking, too.